Next speaker is Josephine Gray, followed by someone from the Speaker Bureau, the Youth Rights Project, and then Cindy Brownlee. Go ahead, Josephine.
Hey, thank you for this opportunity. I'm a human rights defender and a grandmother, and no one is paying me to be here. But I know that you're being paid to consult communities and work for us to sustain a healthy city. In the community consultation report, the majority of people were very willing to pay a modest property tax increase to maintain inclusive public services. And we're obviously happy to work with you on other ways to balance the budget. So there's your answer. Public's been consulted. We like our public services. They don't have to be cut. Problem solved. What great news. So why did you hire KPMG to make a report that has somehow become the focus of this process? Why claim we have no choice but to cut or sell our public goods and services? How is a multinational corporation guilty of criminal wrongdoing entitled to advise the people of Toronto how best to invest our hard-earned taxes in our communities? That said, we have to think about what that means, privatization. If we let a private corporation like KPMG take it over, we have no control, we can't take it back, we can be sued. Essentially, it eliminates democracy. And once you've eliminated democracy, I don't know how we're going to get our sovereignty back. And I don't want my children in that fight, and I don't know why anybody else would. You know, corporations are not accountable to the public. They have no interest in things like human rights or a healthy city. And that's why cities are democratic institutions. So all our money can be invested in services, including the decent jobs for qualified people so they can do their best to serve us well. A lot of older people like myself remember what democracy looks like. We also know that higher levels of government created much of our problem by downloading huge costs onto the city's budget in 1996. Maybe Toronto should withhold a few billion in taxes until we get a better deal, or find ways to make them take back the responsibilities they've been avoiding for 15 years. For example, if we invest, oh, I keep losing my spot. Sorry. I hate this. If we invest in helping Toronto's homeless people get disability benefits and housing that they're entitled to, we'd save at least $100 million by no longer having to pay so much for shelters and such. And we would gain roughly $18 million a year from formerly homeless people paying for food and rent instead of having to beg on the street. It's a fact that more people who benefit from the circulation of money in the local economy, be they landlords, store owners, or shoppers spending their welfare check, the healthier and more resilient our communities are. So, the idea of draining the city of its lifeblood to feed parasitic banks and corporations that will hoard profits offshore is akin to bloodletting an anemic patient who needs a transfusion. Surely we know better by now. And just for your information, all levels of government in Canada, including Toronto, are obligated by international law to use all available resources to uphold and defend human rights, which includes access to decent housing, fair wages, income security, and a healthy environment. And according to the Vienna Declaration of '93, your first duty as an elected representative is to uphold our human rights.
All right, thank you very much.
And I hope you take that into account.
Yes, we will.
So you have the courage to stand up for us, right?
Thanks a lot.
Yeah?
I don't know what you did, but it worked.
I didn't.
I don't have any questions. I don't have any questions for you, though. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Now, there's someone listed here from the Youth Rights Project. It doesn't give a name, though. Is that person here? Yeah. Youth Rights Bureau? Is that you? What would your name be?
My name is Jorge Pineda. I'm a member of the Youth Rights Project.
Okay.
We are a youth-led volunteer group that works to educate young community leaders on democracy and human rights. We are here today to speak on behalf of Toronto's children and youth who are disproportionately affected by municipal service and program cuts. Many of Toronto's community youth leaders and youth advocates have already presented or written to you with their concerns about these proposed cuts, making it clear that they want service protected and even increased. Youth growing up in an urban environment have special needs that differ from those of rural and suburban youth. Many youth in the city do not have the opportunity to travel beyond Toronto and must be given the opportunity to develop while involved in healthy activities where they can learn, recharge, and grow. Without these opportunities, children and youth are left to loiter inevitably drawn into less constructive activities or even destructive ones. How can these youth be expected to grow into healthy adults without the basic means to nurture, play, learning, and positive change? How can the city function if the communal life is destroyed through program and service cuts? Why do you believe, at least some of you, that those who are less privileged have less of a need for these services than those who have the means to pay for them? To strip the city of its creative energy that develops in its community spaces is a crime against Toronto's youth. There is no need to take away services that have real value to the community and to the youth who are and will be the people of Toronto. Our biggest concern about this process is that the proposed cuts are not the only option towards balancing the budget shortfall. These cuts are unnecessary, but they do present a great opportunity to destroy so many already efficient programs and services in order to create a new need for these services, a new need to be fulfilled by costly private business contracts in the future. This is an exercise in short-term financial gain that increases future costs and increases socially externalized costs. It is also anti-democratic since the people of Toronto never gave you this mandate, and it is an obvious attack on public resources in favor of privatized so-called solutions for our communities. The only conclusion here is that the public is being betrayed for the gain of private companies. This isn't cutting gravy. You're building a new high-speed gravy train for companies and private service contractors to gorge on the public purse and on the remains of a once efficient public delivery system. Toronto's children and youth say no to the municipal service and program cuts and want to see real leadership and real solutions from this mayor and this city council. Will you please find the vision and political courage to take a stand for the needs of Toronto's children and youth? Don't sell off public assets or defund programs that impact their quality of life and healthy development. As civic leaders, you should be championing these services and programs, boosting them, and ensuring their ongoing growth, not gutting them.
Thank you very much. Councillor Vaughan has a question for you, sir. Councillor Vaughan?
I'm curious, the programs that support youth, are you funded by the city?
We are not funded by the city. We are an all-volunteer group.
And so you're not advocating for dollars here, you're advocating for support programs?
For support programs, for the programs that our youth are using consistently throughout the past, which are now on the chopping block. So many community services, so many programs for young people, employment programs, diversion programs, enrichment programs for youth that are under a lot of pressure. Living in the city creates a lot of pressure, and it would be terrible for the cuts to affect all those youth. I mean, we could see a wave of crime happening, especially considering that they're also thinking about cutting the police budget. As a youth, I'm not against the police. I think we all have a part to play in this society, and I don't want to see any of these services cut so that we can avoid future costs and future outsourced costs to the community and to the health of youth.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cindy Brownlee? Cindy Brownlee here? Kurt Montiero? Kurt Montiero? Dimfo Radaby? I hope I'm doing that some justice. Dimfo? Engineering Director, University of Toronto Students Union. Naanthi Wazoria? Yeah. None of those people here? Hamish Wilson? Hamish Wilson?
You've got Colin Phillips maybe ahead of me.
Pardon, Hamish?
You missed Colin Phillips. Colin Phillips?
Colin Phillips is stroked off here for some reason.
He spoke this morning.
Oh, I already spoke, Hamish.
Okay.
Yeah. Just a second. I'm just going to give these other people another chance in case they're... Cindy Brownlee, Kurt Montiero, Dimfo Radaby, and Naanthi Wazuskra.
And then Colin
Okay. Now, after Hamish, Marilyn Wilcoxon, Samantha Evans, and Edith Pearson. Go ahead, Hamish.
Well, this is an older cartoon from maybe 25 years ago, so please don't take it personally, but some people may actually feel that, you know, they're preparing for public consultation. This is what is happening here. Emptying your mind. So hopefully some new ideas will stick. Right. And this, I think, sums up one of the issues that we have, is that we sometimes manage to not really look at the long-term sort of things. Here we are having a good time. Ecologically, we're on a disastrous course. I'll touch on the perils of gutting the Toronto Atmospheric Fund. We've got to make sure that stays put. This is, in fact, maybe more appropriate in terms of motoring along to our destruction. And in fact, that brings up a really core problem with all this. You've got a real blind spot. Where is this car service review? That's a real big issue for some of us, in that cars are subsidized, and you've managed to eliminate that car registration tax. And I know it may not be popular to remind people that, yes, it was a $60 million or so giveaway, give back. But cars are actually very well subsidized. I sent this old chart around before the car registration, the vehicle registration tax went. You can't actually see it that well, unfortunately. The annual range of subsidies and giveaways and avoided externality costs, it ranges between $1,000 per car per year and $4,600 per car per year. Not all of it, of course, is borne and given by the city, but you got to make sure that you actually get the money back from the cars. If you've got this huge gap, well, guess what? The cars are getting a huge, even though they're costly to run, I'm not saying that, and you pay for parking, but there's an awful lot of giveaway that's buried in a lot of the civic budgets, that if you're really having a core service review, come on, be fair, look at how much the cars are costing us. This is one example here, how our roads are worn. You can just barely see the tire treads there. Maybe it's there. That's clear. You know, it's not the bicycle tires that are wearing out the road. The roads are melting, kind of. It's car travel and truck travel. And so with climate change and the Toronto Atmospheric Fund, do not scoop this atmospheric fund. It's a small amount of money compared with all the costs that are accruing both to individuals and us collectively. And I wouldn't necessarily trust you folks to manage the fund either. Maybe Councillor Perks remembers something called the old Metro Waste Reserve Fund, sort of a surcharge, and it was like $100 million or so, and then it got whittled away, and a little bit here, a few million there.
Just about
all
there.
Of a sudden it disappeared. So you got troubles.
Thanks a lot.
Yep. Oh, asphalt tax, surface concrete tax. Yep.
Got it. Okay, I don't see any questions, Hamish. Thank you very much.